So this research focused on the factors influence the credit card usage in Malaysia. So as the problem statement indicates that the people nowadays are using the credit cards as most of the today's transaction. So this study has collected 30 months worth of data from the Department of Statistics Malaysia, as well as the Bank Negara Malaysia as well. Which is from the October 2019 till March 2022. Also bear in mind that while doing this research, also there's an limitation, such as the articles and the journals, and also the lack of discussion from eye to eye.
Research methodology is the technique of systematically resolving the research challenges that arise, as well as the knowledge of how a research project should be carried out in the first place. A thorough understanding of not only the research methodology, but also all of the techniques used in the project was essential for the researcher to complete the project successfully. For the purposes of this study, mostly relied on secondary data sources. There were several sources of information used in the data collection. This section can go into the analysis technique that was used in this study, which includes sampling, research design, data collection, variables, statement of hypothesis, and methodology of analysis. Then the overall strategy that has been established to combine the many components of the research in a methodical and organized manner is referred to as the research design. It was created to ensure that researchers are able to successfully answer research problems, as well as to serve as a guide for researchers in determining which information is required and how it has been acquired, among other things. Also included are the types of investigations to be conducted, as well as the unit of analysis and the time horizon for the study. For the research design, we use a method longitudinal. A longitudinal study is a sort of correlational research study in which variables are examined over a lengthy period of time. There are two criteria that used in the selection process. Number one is the respondent had to be a credit card holder. Number two is the respondent had to be the primary card holder. And the third is, if the respondent had multiple cards, he or she would only use one card of the majority purchases of 80%. Questionnaires were used to collect data for the study. The surveys were disseminated and gathered with the help of several bank credit card sales officers who were able to communicate and connect with their credit card customers of various income levels, vocations, and ages on a daily basis. Researcher interference. The degree of interference that a researcher encounters during the research analysis determines the researcher's influence on the research conclusion. There are three sorts of researcher interference, which is minimal interference, moderate interference, and excessive interference. Because the researcher just employs historical data observation in the study, it can be classified as little intervention. For the study setting, we choose Malaysia to do research about usage of credit card users. We choose Malaysia because Malaysia is our country and many Malaysian citizens use credit card in their daily life. There are two types of study environments: contrived and non-contrived study environments. The contrived study environments are artificial, whereas the non-contrived study environments can be undertaken in real settings where work would ordinarily be done. The research can be carried out with data collected only once over a period of days, weeks, or months. One-shot or cross-sectional studies are the terms used to describe these types of investigations. We employ cross-sectional studies for our research because the time frame is from October 2019 to March 2022. The Department of Statistics Malaysia provided secondary data for the variables of credit card applications approved by banks, employed persons, and unemployed persons. Credit card fraud detection studies on the use of predictive analytics have shown that researchers adopted various methods such as artificial neural networks, k-nearest neighbor, logistic regression, AdaBoost, knife Bayes, and many more. This study makes use of secondary data obtained from secondary sources, the interbank funds transfer system and scriptless securities depository system were used to obtain secondary data. All of Malaysia's credit card applications approved by banks, employed persons and unemployed persons are collected from these databases. Now we go to the interbank fund transfer system, which is IFTS. Interbank fund transfer system are agreements that allow banks to transfer funds between themselves or on behalf of their clients. Next, we go to the scriptless security depository system, which is SSDS. The scriptless security depository system, or SSDS, refers to the scriptless security depository system, which is a scriptless book entry securities depository system operated by MyClear. Okay, now we go to the variables. There are two types of variable, which is independent variable and dependent variable. Independent variable, we have number of credit card application approved by banks, employment status, which is employed, employment status, which is unemployed. Okay, for the dependent variable, we have one only, which is credit card usage in Malaysia. Okay, next we get to the conceptual framework. There are three propositions, which is first one, there is a relationship between numbers of credit card approved and the amount of credit card usage in Malaysia. Second is there is a relationship between employed customer status and credit card usage in the country. Third is there is a relationship between unemployed customer status with the amount of credit card usage in the country. Okay, next we go to the test consideration for data analysis. The influence of independent variables on credit card usage in Malaysia will also be investigated using the link between variables. Next, we go to the descriptive analysis. Descriptive analysis is a sort of data analysis that helps to explain, show, or summarize data points in a constructive way so that pattern might develop that satisfy of the data's condition. Okay. Next, we go to the correlation analysis. In research, correlation analysis is a statistical approach for calculating the link between two variables and measuring the strength of the linear relationship between them. Simply defined, correlation analysis determines how much one variable changes as a result of the change in the others. Okay, next we go to the normality test. The normality test is a method for determining whether a sample data test is set is evenly distributed. The researcher must execute a Jacob-Berra test on the sample corpus and skewness to deduce information about the population from a sample of data. Now we go to the regression analysis. A set of statistical procedure of estimating relationship between a dependent variable and one or more independent variable is known as a regression analysis. Lastly is a panel least square. By regressing a panel of data, panel least square regression identifies the simultaneous impact of numerous independent factors on a dependent variable.
So moving on to the correlation analysis. So correlation analysis is to determine whether or not there is a feasible two-way linear link between the two continuous variable. So it's range between the negative one to positive one. So take a look at the graph. So we look on the credit card approval. So there is a positive correlation with the credit card, with the credit card usage and the credit card approved as the value is 0.670216. Also, they have a significance value as the p values is 0.001, which is less than the 5% level of significance. So for the employment also shows a positive relationship as its value is 0.866941 and its p value is less than 5%, which is 0.000, thus have a significant link with the credit card usage. But however, as we can see, for the unemployment, it shows a negative relationship with the credit card usage as its values is negative 0.306036 and its p-value is larger than 5%, which is 0.1000, indicates that there is an insignificant relationship with each other. So for the regression analysis, we will take a look at the F stats at the bottom. So we can say that that we can accept this model as it not exceed the 5%. And next we will take a look on the every variables. So looking at the probability, we can conclude that the credit card approved have a significant relationship with the dependent variable, as there is a 0.0008 and it is not exceed from the 5%. And next we have the employment. So the employment is a 0.000, so we can say there is a significant relationship between the dependent variable and the independent variable. Thus we can reject the null hypothesis. And the last variable is the unemployment, so the figure is a 0.0159, so it's not exceed from the 0.05, making it has a significant relationship between both of it, making the result also have to reject the null hypothesis. So the next one is the limitation. So there's a limitation on this studies application and interpretation that was imposed by the several study constraint. So we're conducting this research that use the secondary data research. So most of us will encounter difficulties. So as the secondary data is difficult to come by and access to the general and papers authorized by the others is sometimes limited and requires a subscription. So since that the case, so we have to come up with a new way of obtaining data from the academic publication like the research paper and the journals. And the next one is the difficulties to identify the relevant publications or research paper on the lack of the correlation between the independent and dependent variables. Also due to the limited access to specific publication restricts researchers from finding the relevant materials, making the discovery rare of previous studies. In addition, the data shows that the researchers may rely on the validates of their research theory.